Hello, so just a quick lesson here from me, the history tutor, and we're going to be looking at the Balkan Crisis and particularly the how useful source question. So let's get straight to it. Okay, so here's the question on the Balkan Crisis as it is in your revision guide, and we're looking at how useful are sources B and C to historians studying the impact of the Balkan Wars and the general Balkan Crisis. We're only going to look at one source in this video, and if you want to find out more about how to answer this question in detail, do look at my other videos on the how useful source question, where I go through it in much more detail about the command words of the questions, the general structure, and the ideas of content versus provenance, those type of ideas. So this is a quick one source practice. So we've got the source here and we've got the content, which is obviously the picture itself. We've got the provenance, which is of course the information underneath the picture about who wrote it and when they wrote it, etc. So list some ideas then. You need to, in the exam, you need to spend time just jotting a few ideas down before you start writing, get a sort of sense of what the source is all about and what is useful about, in this case, the impact of the Balkan Wars. So list your ideas down. So pause me and start to plan your ideas. Okay, you've got some ideas. So what about this then? So you picked out, obviously, the source shows the main leaders of Europe over a large cooking pot, and the cooking pot has the Balkan troubles written on it, which obviously suggests there's a crisis on the way. The Balkan Wars might lead to a big crisis where all of the alliance system countries are unraveled in some sort of wider conflict. And of course, the pot is bubbling over. So there's going to be a real problem here. It might even be a certain sense of using the phrase melting pot. Okay, so what about the provenance? The provenance is a British cartoon, which this suggests that it sees the problem of others like Germany, Russia, and the alliance system causing war. They are all sort of causing problems. Britain maybe is not so much involved. The Balkans are a long way away, and maybe Britain's not quite involved in this. So let's have a look and see if we can explain the impact of obviously the Balkan Wars then a little bit more. Okay, so we need to obviously have a good paragraph structure. We need to decide whether it's partly or very useful in response to the how useful phrase. And also we need to respond to the question, impact the Balkan Wars. So give me a reason, first of all. We then might talk about either the content first or the provenance first, depends how our answer starts to flow. We back up and explain our ideas with knowledge. As it says, you must use your contextual knowledge. And then we might assess the provenance or content at the end with a furthermore. Okay, so top answers will do the content and provenance for both sources. Okay, and they will explain with knowledge. So what do you think would be a good opening sentence? Write your opening sentence now. Have a think about, obviously, what the source shows. It shows, obviously, a bit of a crisis developing. Is that the impact of the Balkan Wars? Okay, jot your opening point down now. Okay, so here's my opening point. So source B is very useful about the impact of the Balkan Wars because it suggests that people feared the events in the Balkans may cause war. Excuse the slight spelling error there, but may cause war. For example, it shows... Okay, so what would be an example from the source where it shows there is a possibility of war? Okay, so pick an example out, write it down, or give a message of the source. Over to you now. Okay, so here's my example. So, for example, it shows the major European powers in a cooking pot named the Balkan Crisis. This shows that people felt the events of the Balkans would lead to a crisis in sort of European affairs in Europe. This is useful about the impact of the wars because, so now explain about the wars and their impact. How could they unravel the alliances and how could they cause problems? What is the relationship between things? Try and explain the impact now. Over to you again. A couple of sentences of knowledge and impact. Okay, got an idea. So this is useful about the impact of the wars because it might unravel the alliance system, of course. Austria had already seized control of Bosnia in 1909, and this had enraged Serbia. Okay, really quite important to come back to the 1909 Austrian-Bosnian crisis. Quite a good event to talk about. The wars in 1912 threatened to increase tensions further as Serbia and the Balkan states could grow in power, and this could lead to revolts or wars against Austria-Hungary to free the Balkan people, like the Bosnians trapped in their empire. You could talk about the 15 different languages, all the different national groups. Austria-Hungary is vulnerable. Those are sort of things you could have talked about as well. This would lead to the involvement of Russia to to support obviously the Slavic countries. It was feared that this would cause the alliance system to unravel into a wider war. Okay, so that's, lots of good knowledge in there, lots of good understanding. So what about the provenance then? So you can now give an idea about the provenance. So furthermore, the provenance says, give your idea, and then we'll have a look at it. So furthermore, the provenance is very useful because it is a British cartoon. This means it's a more neutral view than maybe a Russian or Serbian or Austrian view about their crisis. The British view can see that the rivalries and increasing nationalism will potentially lead to war, whilst the other countries may have too much self-interest to understand the wider consequences. And then you might conclude at the end. So overall, it is very useful as it gives a correct view based on the opinion of a more neutral country within the events. Okay, so there is the full answer. Okay, just a quick source video there looking at the Balkan crisis. It's a complicated set of events, the Bosnian crisis, the different Balkan wars, the development of nationalism, how that links into the alliance system. Hopefully it helped put some of those jigsaw pieces together for you and practice your skills. Okay, so I'll see you again soon for another video. Bye bye for now.